Hello, my name is Nicole Solis, and today I'll be discussing 4 recent scholarly articles on James Madison and the separation of church and state. As I continue research for my dissertation on James Madison, I hope to understand recent historical interpretations of this most defining contribution to America's founding. When scholars today revisit James Madison's ideas on religious liberty, they're not just studying an 18th century debate. They're probing the philosophical roots of a modern principle that we today call the separation of church and state. Over the past 2 decades, historians and political theorists have refined their understanding of Madison's thought, moving beyond the portrayals of him as either a strict secularist or a detached rationalist. 4 recent works by Vincent Phillip Muñoz, Jeff Broadwater, Jeffrey Sikkenga, and Debra Neill illustrate this shift. Vincent Phillip Muñoz argued that Madison's principle of religious liberty was grounded not in pragmatic politics or secular pluralism, but in his theological anthropology, his view of human beings as moral agents bound by a duty to the Creator. Munoz sees this duty as the foundation of Madison's non-cognizance principle, that government has no rightful authority to see into the or to legislate matters of religion because conscience belongs exclusively to God. For Munoz, separation of church and state was therefore not a rejection of religion, but a recognition of divine jurisdiction. Jeff Broadwater, writing a few years later, approached the question from a more historical and biographical angle. He described what he called the Madison problem. It's the challenge of reconciling Madison's idealism with his political realism. Broadwater concludes that Madison's consistency, or maybe seeming inconsistency, lay not in a single doctrine, but in a method of balance. He sought to harmonize reason and faith, liberty and order. In his account, separation of church and state was less an abstract rule than a practical means of preserving virtue and stability in a diverse republic. Jeffrey Sikkenga's 2012 article proposed what he calls Madison's fundamental principle of religious liberty, that no government has religious agency. This idea, Sikkenga argues, unites the 2 dominant interpretations of Madison: non-cognizance and accommodation. Government cannot force religion by establishment, but it may recognize conscience to prevent coercion. Thus, Madison's thought holds together the twin commitments of the First Amendment: no establishment and free exercise. Finally, Debra Neill's 2019 study of disestablishment in Virginia turns attention from James Madison to the dissenters, who helped shape this context. She challenges the notion that Baptists and Presbyterians simply wanted denominational equality. Instead, their petitions reveal a rights-based understanding of liberty of conscience, a belief that every individual, regardless of creed, possessed an inalienable right to worship freely. In this view, the separation of church and state emerged not only from enlightened rationalism, but from a shared moral philosophy that linked reason, conscience, and equality. Together, these scholars show that Madison's legacy and the principle of separation cannot be reduced to a wall between religion and government. Instead, they uncover a more nuanced vision: a political order grounded in the freedom of conscience, limited government, and moral responsibility before God. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a comment or like if you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much. Bye.